Left at the altar, I was a millionaire without love until a kind maid gave me hope again. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air felt heavy, electric with tension. My heart raced as I stood in that grand hall, adorned with white roses and golden ribbons. The world watched, but all I could see was the empty space beside me. She didn't show. My breath hitched. It felt like a knife in my gut. I was a millionaire, yet all my wealth was hollow without the love I thought I had. The whispers were like daggers, slicing through the laughter and clinking glasses. How could she? They murmured. Doesn't he deserve better? The silence was deafening. The truth is, I was drowning in a sea of expectations. My family, my friends, they saw the glitz. They admired the shiny facade. But inside I was crumbling. Everyone assumed the money meant happiness and love. They didn't know the loneliness that loomed over my mansion like a dark cloud. I had built walls, fortifying myself against disappointments. Little did I know, those walls would be my prison. Then, there was Sophia. The maid who dusted the corners of my life. She had a warmth that radiated like sunlight breaking through a cold dawn. I often found her humming softly, a reprieve from the chaos of my existence. Her hands moved deftly over the silver trays, but her eyes, they sparkled with dreams. We shared fleeting conversations, fragments of laughter that felt like fresh air. She saw me, not just the money. It was a connection I didn't expect, one I desperately clung to. Then came the twist. On the day my heart shattered, she was the only one who dared to approach me. Tears streaming down my cheeks, I collapsed onto the marble floor. Silently, she knelt beside me, her fingers brushing my trembling hands. You aren't alone, she whispered, and in that moment, something shifted. Her hope clashed with my despair. It felt like a spark, something potent yet fragile, igniting just beneath the surface. But then just as quickly as it emerged, doubt settled in. Should I trust her? Could this be more than a fleeting moment of relief? I wanted to believe, but the shadows of betrayal loomed large. Each heartbeat echoed my turmoil, a rhythm of conflicting emotions warring within me. What was I to do with this unexpected bond? Where could it lead in the midst of my spiraling world? As my thoughts spiraled, the laughter from the party rang hollow. The future ahead felt like a fog. Would I be brave enough to take a leap? Or would I let fear keep me shackled to the past? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed the wedding debacle bled into each other like watercolors in a storm. Every morning, I woke up in a mansion that felt like a shell, a hollow echo of the dreams I had crafted since childhood. The sun would stream through the tall windows, bathing the marble floors in gold, yet it was a light that only served to highlight my solitude. Each corner of the house was a reminder of my lost love. Every room seemed to mock my failure, whispering doubts that clung to me like damp winter air. But Sophia continued to be an anchor amidst the rising tide of my despair. Day after day, she arrived at dawn, her presence a balm that soothed the jagged edges of my heart. I found solace in her laughter as she navigated the hallways, bustling from room to room with a grace I envied. One afternoon, while she scrubbed the kitchen counters, I lingered by the doorway, watching her. The way she tucked strands of hair behind her ear, the sparkle in her eyes as she hummed a soft tune, it stole my breath. In her presence, for the first time since the disaster, I felt the stirrings of something beautiful. Yet, with that beauty came a panic that gripped my chest. I wrestled with the reality of my situation. Why was I drawn to her? Underneath my attraction lay a deep-seated fear. She was not just a maid, she was a symbol of everything I should not want. A mere moment of connection didn't dissipate the tides of my reality. I was still a millionaire, and she was still bound to a life of servitude. The gulf between us felt insurmountable. Are you going to stand there all day? She teased, catching me unawares. Her smile broke through my spiraling thoughts. There's work to be done. I stepped forward, caught in the warmth of her laughter. I just lost track of time. You've got a lot on your mind, she said softly, her expression shifting to something more serious. You don't have to pretend around me, you know. Could I? I pondered, 1,000 emotions battling for traction in my heart. For once, I longed to strip away the layers and talk about the pain of betrayal that was still raw, the hurt of being left abandoned at the altar. I craved to share the fear that my life lacked direction, yet all I could muster was a nod. As she resumed her cleaning, I turned away, my heart thudding with unadulterated vulnerability. Maybe this was the beginning of a friendship, a flicker of understanding that could blossom into something richer. But could I be brave enough to traverse that fragile path? One evening, as shadows crept across the estate, I sought her out in the garden, a realm that had once been vibrant yet now mirrored my heart's desolation. A rose bush, colorful yet thorns-laden, stood tall. I knelt beside it, running my fingers over the soft petals, contemplating their paradox of beauty and pain. Sophia joined me, her presence grounding. You know, they remind me of us, she said, glancing toward the roses. Grace and hurt intertwined. Am I supposed to admire the beauty despite the pain? I challenged, my voice almost a whisper. Maybe it's not about choosing one over the other. Maybe it's about embracing it all, she replied, her gaze unwavering. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting vivid hues of orange and pink, we lingered in that silence, anchored by the shared understanding of our lives' complexities. I could feel a connection growing, almost palpable in the twilight air. It stirred something deep within me, a longing to bury my past and forge ahead. Just as uncertainty began to wrap around me like a gentle embrace, I sensed a shift, a rustling in the darkened bushes. Before I had time to react, a figure emerged from the shadow, and my heart stopped. It was a man, familiar yet startlingly out of place. The way he looked at me felt charged, nostalgic even, but I couldn't grasp what stirred beneath the surface. My mind raced back to memories I thought were buried. What are you doing here? I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. He smirked, a chilling blend of mischief and regret. I heard about the wedding. Apparently you've turned quite the page. Thought I'd stop by and see how my old friend is holding up. Every word hung in the air like a storm about to break. In that moment, I realized I had traded one kind of chaos for another. The cliffhanger of my emotions teetered at the edge, poised for a fall into the unknown. Would this man drag me back to where I had begun, or could Sophia's kind light still cut through the darkness? The weeks that followed that night in the garden felt like a delicate balancing act, teetering on the edge of possibility. Every sunrise brought with it the promise of a fresh start, yet the familiar weight of uncertainty clung to me, an invisible shroud that dulled every color in my world. Max, the man who had so unexpectedly stepped back into my life, was a ghost from a past I had tried to forget. With each visit, he brought tales of wild nights and reckless decisions made while I remained cloistered in a world of privilege and intoxicating entrapment. I often found myself trapped in memories that collided with the present, sometimes dizzy with the sweetness of nostalgia, and other times, suffocated by the starkness of my reality. He reveled in the chaos of life, but I was still unraveling from the calamity of love lost, his bravado a stark contrast to the shadows enveloping me. Sophia was my respite, her laughter a sunbeam piercing the gray storm clouds. Each day, after Max's visits, I sought her out like a moth drawn to the flame. The way she moved through my home with such fluid grace reminded me of the resilience of life, the same life I felt I had been robbed of. But even as my heart swelled with tender feelings for her, the guilt of my past surged within me, suffocating the budding hope. One day, while dusting a shelf in the library, Sophia timidly asked, "Is everything all right? You seem different since Max came around." Her vulnerability echoed through the room, her concern cutting deeper than I expected. "It's complicated," I confessed, running a hand through my hair. How could I explain the maelstrom that spiraled within? "He's an old friend, and our past it's messy. Sometimes, pasts have a way of creeping back in," she said, her voice gentle yet etched with wisdom. But isn't it in the mess that we find clarity? I thought of her words long after she had left the room, allowing them to cascade over and over in my mind. Was this all just mess-me feelings for her, the turmoil that Max invoked, the wreckage of my engagement? Perhaps clarity didn't have to arise from simplicity. Maybe it could be carved from chaos. Days turned into weeks, and with them, Max's visits became more relentless. I could feel his presence lingering like smoke in the corners of my heart, pulling at the threads I was desperately trying to weave together. Sophia would catch my eyes as I listened to Max regale stories of our drinking fests and late-night escapades, and beneath her facade of understanding, I sensed her discomfort. One evening, I found myself alone at the grand dining table, Max chattering about his latest business ventures while I mechanically grazed on the meal before me. My heart felt heavy, so detached from the world around me. Max's voice faded into background noise as I locked eyes with Sophia, who was standing off to the side, a frown creasing her forehead. As the meal came to an end, Max made jest about my lack of appetite. "Come on, mate! You can't run a business empire on greens alone." His laughter boomed through the opulent room, echoing off the frescoed ceilings. But I felt trapped, claustrophobic beneath the gilded opulence that had once mesmerized me. "I think I might go for a walk," I murmured, pushing my chair back aggressively. I barely waited for a response, escaping into the cool night air, necessary and suffocating all at once. I wandered aimlessly through the manicured gardens, the moonlight spilling silver over the path. Memories of joyous times shared with Max filled the silence around me, but soon they darkened into the rush of confusion stemming from my troubled heart. "Hey," Sophia's voice broke through the silence, a comforting balm against the void. She approached cautiously, concern etched across her face. "You left rather suddenly. Are you okay?" "I don't know." The words tumbled out before I could catch them. "It's hard. Max keeps pulling me back into things I thought I'd escaped. Maybe you need to confront him not just for your sake, but for yours and his," she advised, her sincerity pouring into the air like a warm blanket. "You deserve to. Choose your own path." "Easy for you to say," I snapped, surprising even myself at the bitterness in my tone. "You don't have a history with him, a reckless history. Doubt I might not have a history with him," she replied, unfazed by my outbursts, "but I see the way he disrupts your peace. Don't let him siphon your happiness. You have to fight for what you want." At that moment, a wave of realization washed over me. Her courage flickered like a beacon through the fog of my memories, illuminating the shadows. Maybe it was time to shed the weight of my past, to put an end to the chaos lapping at the edges of my fragile resolve. But just as I opened my mouth to share my thoughts, a familiar rustling echoed from the path leading into the orchard. "Is that him?" Sophia whispered, her stance shifting defensively. Before I could answer, Max emerged. A wild look glinted in his eyes, shock threading through his features. "There you are. I've been searching for you. We need to talk." What he revealed next shattered the fragile moment between us. "I can't let you go, not now. There are things you don't understand about your family, and why I came back. I need you to know." I felt the ground tilt beneath me, Sophia's hands slipping from grasp as the darkness loomed once more, threatening to pull us back into the chaos. As Max's words hovered in the air, I chose silence, all too aware that the truth could plunge me back into despair. In that moment, I could feel everything changing yet again, unraveling like a frayed tapestry. Would I be able to confront whatever Max uncovered, or would the past consume me whole? The air crackled with tension, the night a stage for unspoken truths. Max's presence loomed heavy, and I could feel Sophia's gaze washing over us, searching for clarity but finding only darkness. "You need to listen to me," Max insisted, stepping forward as if to bridge the distance between us. "There are forces at play here, things you don't know about your family's business, about your father." I recoiled at the mention of my father, memories flooding back like a torrent. Every hour spent under the weight of his expectations, the suffocating grip of his control, it was everything I had tried to escape. "What do you mean?" I demanded, my voice steadier than I felt. This was not the reunion I had imagined. Instead, I sensed the walls of my carefully constructed world beginning to cave in around me. Your father has enemies, dangerous ones, Max continued, his intensity growing as he steeled himself for the revelation. I didn't come back just to reminisce. I have information, things that could endanger you if they get out. Our connection is deeper than you realize, and that's why I can't just walk away. Enough! I snapped, my heart racing as panic clawed at me. I needed space, air, something to ground me from the chaos rising like a wave. I can't do this right now. I turned, desperate to escape, but Sophia stepped closer. Wait, she said softly, her voice like a gentle tether. If you have information, Max, we need to hear it. This concerns all of us. Her calmness bewildered me. I could see the spark of hope within her, even as I felt my own heart retreat. Max hesitated, glancing between me and Sophia, then took a deep breath. I don't want to hurt you, he admitted, vulnerability seeping into his bravado. But you deserve to know that everything tied to your family isn't as neat and tidy as it seems. There are deals in the shadows, negotiations that could affect your life in ways you can't imagine. My resolve crumbled. Was I ready to confront the reality behind the silk curtain of wealth? Or should I cling desperately to my illusions, protecting the fragile moments of peace I shared with Sophia? The decision loomed before me, heavy yet infinite. Just then, a rustle in the bushes broke our heavy silence, drawing our focus. An older woman emerged from the edge of the garden, her face familiar yet shrouded in the dim light. Excuse me, miss? She called, her voice shaky but firm. I hope I'm not intruding, but I have something important to say. Max's expression shifted, a flicker of recognition crossing his features. Catherine? Yes, it's me, she replied, breathing heavily. I work for your family, and I've been aware of things you all need to know. The urgency in her voice made the hair on the back of my neck stand on end. What do you mean? I asked, feeling like a puppet in a play I had never auditioned for. There are secrets your father has buried deep beneath the surface, things he would kill to keep hidden, she said, her eyes darting nervously. But I couldn't stand by and let you be targeted by enemies you don't even know exist. You need to understand the dangers. Like what? Max pressed, his curiosity piqued. Catherine glanced around, paranoia lacing her words. I can't speak freely here. Meet me in the old barn tomorrow night. There's information that could change everything. You need to hear it. Without waiting for further questions, she turned and hurried back into the darkness, leaving us in a spiraling whirlwind of bewilderment and uncertainty. What the hell? I murmured, the world narrowing down to a single point of confusion. What does this even mean? Max ran a hand through his hair, the worry lines on his forehead deepening. We have to go. If she knows something, we cannot let this opportunity slip away. Sophia's fingers brushed mine, grounding me yet again amidst the chaos. You don't have to do this alone, she said, her voice a soothing balm. I'll be there. We'll face whatever it is together. Together? I echoed, the warmth of her words igniting a flicker of hope. Still, a storm brewed within me, feeding the anxiety of confronting my past, of meeting shadows I thought I had left behind. But just as I was about to respond, the ground beneath us trembled with the weight of uncertainty. The headlights of a car swept through the garden, illuminating the faces of everyone within its reach. It was a lavish vehicle, familiar and foreboding, and it pulled up outside the grand entrance with unyielding authority. As the door swung open, a figure stepped out, the unmistakable silhouette of my father emerging from the shadows of my life. My heart lurched. Had he been following me? Was this confrontation inevitable? Dad? My voice came out as a whisper, the worry coiling in my gut. What hand would he play in this unfolding drama? I felt the world tilt dangerously as choices and allegiances shifted, the stakes rising higher than I ever anticipated. Would the truth remain hidden, or was I destined to become ensnared in the very web I had tried to escape? The silence was thick, suffocating almost, as my father strode toward us, his presence as heavy and authoritative as the midnight sky itself. He was the embodiment of everything I had tried to escape, the embodiment of expectations, control, and relentless ambition. My heart raced, caught in a crossfire of conflicting emotions, fear, resentment, and an odd, nagging sadness. "Carmen," he said as he approached, his voice smooth like polished marble, yet tinged with a sharpness that cut through the night air. "What are you doing here?" His gaze flicked toward Max and Sophia, scrutinizing them as if they were intruders in his carefully curated world. The instinct to defend myself flared up, and for a moment, I considered standing my ground, but the way his eyes bore into me unraveled that thread of courage. Instead, I turned to Sophia, searching for the comfort and strength she always offered. She stood resolutely beside me, a pillar of quiet confidence against my father's unyielding presence. I started, but the words faltered in my throat as he raised a hand to silence me. "This is not the time, Carmen," he interjected, his voice lowering as he continued to observe Max and Sophia with punctuated disdain. "You should not be mingling with those who don't belong in our circle. Who are you to dictate who belongs and who doesn't?" I snapped, finally unearthing the fury that had been festering within me. "You have no idea who I am, who I choose to surround myself with." Max's expression darkened at this clear confrontation, but Sophia placed a hand on my arm as if to ground me. "Sir," she began, her tone calm yet assertive, "we all deserve transparency. Carmen has the right to know what's going on, and so do we." "Transparency?" my father echoed, a cold laugh escaping his lips. "Do you really think your childish naivety will save you from the harsh realities of this world? You're playing with fire, and I will not allow you to get burned." "Then tell me," I pleaded, stepping closer, emboldened by Sophia's unwavering support. "Tell me the truth about our family, the business, and everything that's been hidden. I won't live a lie anymore just to appease you." For a moment, a flicker of something akin to surprise crossed my father's face, quickly replaced by a dark imperviousness. "I will not have you involved in matters that are above your understanding. This is for your own good, Carmen." The anger ignited inside me, fueled further by the shifting allegiances and the fear that had plagued me from the moment Max had resurfaced. "You have no idea what is for my good. You never did." The words felt raw and liberating as they left my lips, and I sensed the storm within me was about to unleash. But just as my father opened his mouth to respond, the sudden crunch of gravel interrupted the exchange, and two figures emerged from the shadows. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized them. It was Liam and Jolene, my father's most trusted business associates, faces etched with an unusual seriousness that sent a chill cascading down my spine. "Sir, we need to talk," Liam said, his eyes darting past us toward my father, sadness etched into his brow. "It's urgent." A sense of foreboding filled the night air, as if the universe were warning us of an impending storm on the horizon. "What is it?" my father demanded, an edge creeping into his voice. "It's about the negotiations. There's been a breach. Someone is trying to undermine your position. We believe your enemies have figured out a way to exploit your weaknesses," Jolene added, her voice trembling slightly, as if the weight of her words threatened to buckle her resolve. With that revelation hanging in the air, the breath in my lungs felt caught, frozen in a moment that promised to shatter the fragile peace we had found. My father's expression shifted, his poised facade slipping, revealing an inkling of fear through the cracks, and for a fleeting moment, I saw him as more than just a formidable force but a man vulnerable to the very dangers he sought to protect me from. "Who?" he demanded, the sharpness returning to his tone. "Who would dare?" The disarray within me intensified, spiraling around an intricate web of emotion, guilt, and the desperate need for connection. How could I have known that in trying to distance myself from his world, I would be drawn back so fiercely? But just as I prepared to confront the rising wave of anger, Sophia's fingers intertwined with mine, grounding me once again as her determined gaze urged me forward. Before I could put thoughts into words, a shrill ringing echoing from my father's pocket broke through the tension, and he stepped back abruptly to answer. "What is it?" He spoke sharply into the phone, color draining from his face as he listened, and then, without warning, his expression transformed into one of raw panic, his voice shaking slightly as he said, "No, that's not possible, Carmen. Wouldn't you must be mistaken." With each syllable, fear clawed at my heart, anticipation spinning wildly in my thoughts. "Dad? What is it?" I urged, desperation clawing at me, but his gaze was distant, transfixed somewhere beyond the horizon of this moment into a future fraught with uncertainty. As he ended the call, the air between us became electric, thick with secrets and unresolved fears. Carmen, we need to go. Now. His voice was taut, a mixture of urgency and dread. What once seemed like a night of revelations now loomed larger than I had anticipated, and with my father's uncharacteristically panicked demeanor, a chilling realization settled in. There was so much more at stake than I ever imagined. Suddenly, 1,000 questions surged within me, waiting to be voiced, but before I could gather my thoughts, another shadow stepped into the light. A figure from my past, someone who would challenge everything I thought I understood about my family. It was Clara, my mother's sister, estranged, yet keys to the hidden truths I had sought all my life. Her eyes glimmered with unshed tears, a burden of unvoiced stories coalescing in the shadows of this night, and I felt the ground beneath me shift yet again. Carmen, I need to talk to you, she breathlessly implored, her voice laced with urgency. This was the moment that could unravel everything I had been too afraid to confront. As the walls closed in, I wondered, could this be the day I finally inherited the truth, or would it push me closer to the edge of the shadows I tried to escape? The atmosphere was thick with tension as I stood amidst the clamoring doubts that encircled me, a tangled web of anxiety threading through my thoughts. Clara's eyes, pleading and shimmering with unshed tears, drew me in like a magnetic force, begging for acknowledgement. She hadn't aged visibly, but there was an unmistakable weight that clung to her, one marked by years of silence and secrets left unspoken. Carmen, she repeated, her voice breaking slightly, desperate for my attention. We don't have much time. Please, we need to talk about your mother. The mention of my mother sent a jolt through me, awakening a mixture of longing and confusion that bubbled far beneath the surface. My heart raced, the intensity of the moment igniting a raw need to uncover the past. What do you mean? I managed to ask, my voice shaking as I fought against the tide of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. Clara stepped closer, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for mine, the gesture both comforting and unsettling. I can't explain everything here, it's not safe, but I promise you, there are truths that you deserve to know. Your father hides more than you could possibly understand. She paused to glance around, ensuring we were still alone before continuing. I'm not the only one who's been kept in the dark. You, too, have been pulled into this web of lies, Uncle? I stumbled over the word, glancing back at my father, whose urgent conversation with Liam and Jolene crackled with anxiety. The reality of his panic mixed with the shock of seeing Clara turn the night into a disorienting kaleidoscope of revelation. There is so much at stake, Carmen. I cannot explain it now, but there's a storm coming, and you need to be prepared, Clara insisted, her voice steady despite the tremors that threatened its clarity. You are stronger than you realize, but you cannot do this alone. You must trust me. For a moment, I was tempted to recoil, to tell her to leave, to allow the compounding troubles of my family to retreat back into the comfortable silence I had clung to. Yet the intensity of her plea ignited something deep within me, a flicker of hope that perhaps this confrontation would lead to clarity after all, not just chaos. Trust you? I almost laughed, the irony stinging bitterly. You're the one who left. You shut me out. Why should I trust you now? Clara's eyes softened, thick with unspoken sorrow. You were just a child, Carmen. I made choices I regret every day. It was never my intention to leave you without the truth. The longing in her voice was palpable, as if she were wrestling with the ghosts of her own past, searching for an avenue to mend what had been lost. As if on cue, my father turned abruptly, eyes scanning the area until they locked onto Clara and me. In that moment, time slowed, and a clash of emotions surged within me, a blend of defiance and fear. I hesitated, acutely aware of the precarious balance I was straddling between two worlds. Carmen, we really must go, he commanded, a tinge of desperation seeping into his tone. The tightness around his mouth suggested a man on the brink of losing control, and I felt the remnants of my anger mix with a compelling urge to defend my father, even as questions gnawed at my spirit. I can't just leave, I said, cutting through the heaviness of the moment. I need to know what she has to say. My father's eyes flared with a mix of alarm and frustration, and for a fleeting moment, I could see the churning of thoughts behind his carefully constructed facade. Carmen. I mean it. You do not want to get involved with her. But before he could say more, Clara's voice broke through, steady and unyielding. You have to hear me, Carmen. There is a reason your father is afraid of the truth. He believes it will ruin everything. But what if it's the only thing that can set you free? The delicate balance hung in the air for a heartbeat longer, each moment stretching, teetering toward revelation or disaster. I glanced back at Max and Sophia, their familiar expressions of concern fueling my resolve, and then turned back to Clara, willing to seek the truth or at least a piece of it. What do you know? I asked, my voice barely a whisper, the weight of impending discovery suffocating and liberating all at once. Clara took a steadying breath, her resolve hardening. There was a reason we were all separated, Carmen. Your mother, she couldn't just leave. Not without fighting. There are people who what? My father thundered, every ounce of authority crashing down the moment, but Clara pressed on undeterred. There are people who would do anything to maintain control over your family's legacy. It's not just business, it's personal. This isn't just about your future, it's about your safety. Before I could process her words, I noticed the pulsating fear etched on my father's face, and it became evident that whatever Clara was unveiling struck a deep chord within him. My father had always been the unwavering rock, the silent sentinel against chaos. Now, for the first time, I felt a shiver resonate within the core of his being, like the tremors in the earth before a violent storm. And then, as if a dam had burst, a new string of tension unfurled through the air as a car's headlights pierced the darkness, slicing through the unyielding night. My father turned, panic flickering across his features as he spoke urgently into the phone again. Not him. Get her out. We can't let him find her. A wave of confusion crashed over me, mingling with dread. Who was coming? Who did we need to escape from? Carmen, Clara called, her voice rising above the noise of my father's desperation. You must choose now. Stay hidden in ignorance and risk losing everything, or embrace the truth and fight for what is yours. As my father's voice rose to an agitated pitch, my heart hovered on the precipice of decision, ready to leap into the unknown. Could I truly walk the path of uncertainty with Clara, or would my father's fears hold me back, like shackles clinging to my spirit? All I knew was that the shadows looming over me were perhaps darker than I had ever imagined, and as each heartbeat pulsed through my veins, I realized this night could end in a cascade of revelations or plunge me into a darker abyss than the one I was trying to escape. In that moment, everything seemed to hinge on my next words, the weight of my choice pressing down on my shoulders, as daunting as the secrets threatening to pull me under. The headlights of the approaching car illuminated Clara's face with an ethereal light, transforming her from a figure of desperation to an almost celestial entity amidst growing darkness. A battle raged within me, a tumult of charges igniting within my soul, each vying for dominance. My father's figure twisted with anxiety, each sharp turn underscoring the gravity of Clara's revelations. Carmen! My father's voice sliced through the chaos like a desperate plea from across a chasm, but the weight of Clara's words pulled me closer to her. The car's engine rumbled in the distance, a relentless reminder that time was evaporating. Behind Clara's tear-streaked visage lay something fierce and defiant, an unwavering spirit ready to shatter the facade that had reigned over my family for too long. My instincts wrestled with each other. Was it bravery that compelled me to step closer toward Clara, or was it reckless desperation? The truth beckoned, twinkling like the stars that peeked through the clouds, and I could feel their pull stronger than the fear. Not him, my father yelled again, desperation staining every syllable, but this time it sparked something deep within me, a clarity that felt sudden yet profound. What do you know about my mother, Clara? I demanded, fueled by anger and sorrow interlaced into a desperate symphony. My father's concern blurred into the background. I was tired of the shadows, tired of yearning for a truth draped in silence. Clara hesitated, the pulse in her throat quickening. I know she loved you fiercely. I know she fought for you. And she paid a price you still don't understand, she replied, the pain in her voice echoing the very deepest depths of my own confusion and hurt. She didn't abandon you. She did all she could to protect you, though it entangled us both in a vortex of deceit. The car pulled into view, its headlights illuminating my father's face, turning it ashen. You're endangering both of us, he implored, his voice rising above the roar of the engine. And what you think you'll find with her is just more trouble, Carmen. As the vehicle's engine sputtered to a halt, uncertainty hung in the air like a thick fog, but an unexpected flicker ignited within me, an ember of defiance. I turned from my father to the woman before me, standing on the precipice of a transformation that felt random and simultaneous. There's nothing more you can do to protect me, I whispered, my heart racing as I sought strength in the fierce determination that burned in Clara's eyes. I need to know who I really am, Carmen. My father's voice broke through, now laced with a new kind of urgency. They're here. You don't understand what it means if you refuse to listen. But before I could respond, the car door swung open and out stepped a tall figure, backlit by the headlights as if shrouded in darkness. It was then that realization clawed at my mind, and I felt a cold shiver trace my spine. Clara! I gasped, panic rising alongside confusion. Who is that? There's no time to explain, she shouted over the roar of my rising heartbeat. You must trust me. I glanced at my father, whose expression morphed into one I had never seen, a mask of fear colored with loss, not just of me but of the secrets he had fought to protect. Carmen, he called out, his voice wavering. You don't have to do this. But the truth echoing in Clara's words resonated within me, giving life to my desperation. With my heart drumming violently, I took a step toward her, toward whatever the unknown promised. Suddenly, the figure moved forward, stepping into the light, a face I recognized, yet never expected to see again. My mouth fell open as the name rolled painfully off my tongue. Oliver? He stood there, eyes wide with a strange mixture of apprehension and something else I couldn't quite decipher. Behind him, the looming darkness felt cemented, almost alive. The weight of his sudden presence swept over me like icy rain, cutting through whatever warmth had begun to stir between Clara and me. Carmen, he said, his voice a heavy whisper that cut the rising tension, you have to come with me. They know you're here. And in that monumental moment, the strings keeping me tethered began to unravel. A storm of choices brewed on the horizon, and I wavered between fleeing to the safety of home with my father, or unraveling a truth that threatened to expose the very foundation I had once believed to be immovable. Clara's fingers grabbed my arm, her grip fierce and steady. You can't go back, you have to face this together, we can figure it out. But as the familiarity of Oliver tugged at my heart, urging an unprocessed rush of emotions into the forefront, I stood still, caught in a vortex of uncertainty, a threshold I had no idea might lead to unraveling my entire reality. Carmen! My father yelled, voice rising in urgency, do not step toward him. With every heartbeat echoing louder than the last, I realized I was on a precipice, arms outstretched before me, ready to plunge into a reality dripping with fragility and promise. My next move would decide everything, the fateful pivot between shadow and illumination, truth and deception. And as I breathed deeply, steeling myself for a choice that could shift the entire fabric of my existence, the world around me felt impossibly still, like awaiting the first crack of thunder to split the darkening skies. With uncertainty clinging to my skin like a second layer, the air around us felt charged, thickening with the weight of untold stories and worlds about to collide. Clara's grip on my arm tightened, her resolve sparking against my wavering heart. She glanced at Oliver, a mixture of wariness and determination dancing behind her eyes. Carmen, you must understand. This isn't just about us, Clara insisted, pulling me a fraction closer. What he's asking could cost you everything you've ever known, but you can't lose yourself in the process. You're stronger than this. Tension radiated from my father, his anguished face illuminated by the flickering glow of the car's headlights. You don't know him, Carmen. You can't trust them. He pleaded, but his words felt like jagged stones against the tidal wave of emotions crashing over me. Who are you trying to protect? I shot back, the anguish spilling out of me, anger lacing my voice like jagged edges. A facade built on lies? Or the truth that has been handed down through whispers and shadows? Oliver stepped forward, breaking into my spiral of turmoil. There's so much at stake, he said, his voice a low murmuring, almost pleading yet heavy with urgency. They're watching, hinting at a reckoning that could destroy everything. We need to hurry. Despite the chaos swirling within, I sensed a flicker of something new in his tone, an unspoken promise that tugged at my heart. I had once adored Oliver, a gleaming thread in my childhood memories. But now, tangled in this intricate web of emotions, the past collided with an uncertain future. Stand with me, Carmen, Clara implored, her eyes fierce like a phoenix ready to rise from its ashes. Don't let fear dictate your choices. There's a reality far greater at play, and you are a part of it. Carmen, just come back to the car, my father rasped, desperation rising in his tone as if he could physically pull me back to him. I won't let you go. Not like this, not like them. But with every beat of my heart, I felt myself drifting, pulled toward a destiny wrapped in mystery. I turned back to Oliver, half tempted by the remnants of affection still arching between us. What did you mean by they? I asked, the tremor in my voice belying the steely resolve I longed to embody. He hesitated, the gravity of his next words evident in the tautness of his expression. The ones who isolated you, who have hunted your family for generations. They think you're the key to a power they've sought for too long. And they won't stop until they've found you. A haunting chill dipped down my spine, the weight of his revelation plummeting through me like a stone cast into still waters. My father's voice, once a bastion of unwavering protection, now felt almost like a lie. This is insanity. My father shouted, his fear morphing into fury. They'll use you, Carmen. Do you think they care about you at all? Maybe he's right, I whispered, heart racing, uncertainty clawing at my insides. The dance of light and darkness around us twisted and turned like a capricious flame. Maybe I need to understand the true danger before making a choice. Isn't it already too late? Clara whispered with an air of resignation, yet her gaze held a flicker of something else, hope. You have the chance to reshape everything. Give power to the truth you deserve, Carmen. Don't waste it. Just when the weight of my spiral thoughts seemed unbearable, the darkness around us shifted and sighed. A figure emerged from the shadows, another presence, piercing through the fog that had enveloped everything else. My heart quickened, sensing a new challenge had materialized. Time's up, the shadowy figure declared, voice low and menacing. You don't have the luxury of choice any longer. What do you mean? I stammered, an icy dread creeping down my spine. Carmen, Oliver snapped, urgency threading through his voice, you must come with me now before it's too late. A cold knot twisted in my stomach, panic swelling. Choices I hadn't fully grasped loomed before me like darkened cliffs, waiting to take me on a fateful plunge. The light of hope was fast dimming, smothered beneath uncertainty and dread. No. My father shouted, his hands outstretched, wanting to keep me with him but unable to bridge the chasm that rapidly widened between us. You don't have to go. Whatever happens next should not be your burden. And just as my mind raced to hold on to all those I loved, to every moment of joy and safety, the figures Oliver, Clara, and now this new presence closed in on me, a storm on the brink. I was the center of an impending reckoning. The world around me faded. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet as if the earth itself sought to reclaim my choice. My next breath felt like a gasp of both fear and clarity. In that precarious moment, where awe and terror stirred like volatile elements, I had to decide: stay wrapped in the familiar warmth of my father's protection or step into a chilling unknown that beckoned, thrilling yet raw. And as the darkness began to dissolve into what felt like a new dawn, I took one last glance at my father before rippling chaos consumed every corner of my tumultuous heart. He looked terrified, and in that shattering gaze I made my choice, pushing me towards the unknown at the very cusp of the abyss. The atmosphere crackled with tension as the shadowy figure loomed closer, nearly swallowing the light that fought to break through the encroaching darkness. My mind was a whirlwind, memories of laughter, family dinners, and late-night conversations. The familiar warmth that love radiating from my father threatened to dissolve as the uncertainty of my next steps pulled me dangerously toward an uncharted path. Carmen, Please. My father's voice wove through the chaos like a desperate fishing line in stormy waters. You are not just some pawn in their game. Remember who you are. This isn't just about power, it's about love, it's about family, it's about you. Oliver's expression tightened, desperation mingling with fury. Your father is trying to keep you weak, Carmen. They will destroy everything. You don't understand what you're up against. He reached for my arm, and instinctively, I pulled away. The warmth of nostalgia fought against the icy grip of Oliver's urgency, creating a whirlpool of emotions that threatened to drown me. Clara stepped closer, her eyes catching the fading headlights, illuminating her fierce determination once more. Carmen. This is your moment. You were never meant to be bound by fear. It's time to embrace your truth. My heart pounded. Clara's words ignited a flame of courage, even as shackles of dread tightened around my chest. Choose. The shadowy figure barked, its voice a low growl that echoed through the abyss. The clock is ticking, and you will either be the key to your freedom or a relic of the past. The choice is yours. I stood there, frozen in chaos, the battle between my longing for safety and my yearning for truth warring within me. Just as despair threatened to engulf me, a flicker of hope emerged from an unexpected place, a familiar sound in the chaos. Carmen! I turned to see Mia, the soft-hearted maid from our estate, rushing towards us. Her unyielding kindness lit up the confusion like a beacon, cutting through the despair that surrounded me. Please! You don't have to go with them. I know things, I've seen things, what can you do? Oliver sneered, frustration pouring from him like venom. Something they can't, Mia shot back defiantly, her gaze fiercely protective. I've kept watch. I know the truth hidden behind all this deceit. My heart twisted at the thought of Mia. She had been a silent guardian, a reassuring presence in our chaotic household. If she had insights I didn't, perhaps she held the key to where I truly belong. Carmen, trust her, Clara urged. You can't do this alone. Do you even know me? I countered, feeling the walls of my reality inching closer. Better than anyone, actually. MIA's voice was laced with quiet resolve. They see you as a threat, a legacy wrapped in power. But you are also a light, Carmen. And I promise I will help you shine. With every word Mia spoke, my resolve felt like a string, pulled taut, ready to snap. The reality of my fragmented family and tattered loyalties clawed at me, but within that turmoil, there also grew a budding ember of hope. A voice from the periphery, reminding me that I could choose a path unchained from the shadows that sought to define me. Time is running out, the shadow figure hissed, its tone laced with malevolence, cutting through MIA's warmth like ice. You have seconds until this choice turns into a grave mistake. Carmen! Panic converged in my father's tone as he reached out, a lifeline in a storm. Just come back to us. But Oliver's urgency reached across the divide, his desperation raw and visible. We can't let them use you. You must be willing to understand your power. Follow me, quick. Torn between the safety of my father's familiar embrace, Oliver's urging, and MIA's warmth, I was gripped by a suffocating awareness that choosing any path could lead to irrevocable loss. I inhaled sharply, fighting the swirling tide of fear as courage bubbled up, fueled by Mia's unwavering support. Carmen, you must seize your future, Clara whispered, the intensity of her gaze piercing through the fog. Every moment you hesitate puts you in more danger, Mia urged, and they already know. What you mean to them? And then, in a moment that felt eternal, my heart surged with the realization that love extended beyond familial bonds. It could sprout from unwavering kindness, even in the most treacherous shadows. With every part of my being, I felt the chains loosening as I made my decision. But just as relief washed over me, darkness surged forward, cloaking the corner of my vision. The figure let out a throaty laugh that echoed way too close, sending chills down my spine. You misunderstand, Carmen. You think you know power, but your fate was sealed long before you took your first breath. What was once certainty began to twist into chaos again, leaving me trapped in an unending spiral of confusion. A flash of something glimmered in the figure's hand, a key, a necklace, perhaps even a family heirloom? And then suddenly, the ground beneath me trembled. I stumbled, heart thudding, as the shadows around us quaked with rage, engrossed in a furious dance, challenging my every shred of hope. I had little time left, little space to maneuver between love and loyalty, illusions and truths. A decision loomed ominously as a crevice of fear opened beneath me, ready to swallow every ounce of light. With my heart racing against the clock, I mustered every ounce of resolve and reached for what lay ahead, feeling the urges of both Oliver and Mia push me toward a fate unknown. But in that precarious moment, the unexpected lurked. What if I was already too late? The night felt thick with shadows, a tapestry woven from uncertainty and dread. As I stood at the crossroads of fate, everything around me pulsated, a living entity that demanded a choice. My father's desperate calls blurred into a distant echo, Oliver's stern urgency continued to pull at my heart, and Mia's gentle warmth enveloped me like a comforting shroud. The ultimatum rushed through the air, rising like a tempest threatening to engulf me whole. "Carmen!" A voice suddenly broke through the rising tide of confusion. It was Clara, stepping forward with an intensity that captured my fragmented sense of self. "You have the power to reclaim your truth. Don't let them dictate what you can or cannot be." The fire in her words ignited something fierce within me, a flicker of an unquenchable flame that urged me to sever the chains of inevitability that sought to bind me. Suddenly, the figure in the shadows stepped closer, revealing a face half hidden behind the veil of night. "Your choice means nothing if you don't understand what is truly at stake," he sneered, a cruel smile twisting his lips. "You think you're strong, you believe you can withstand the storm, but strength means nothing without clarity. You are as lost as your mother was." Each word fell heavy in the charged atmosphere, and the very mention of my mother landed like a punch to the gut. For a brief moment, the world flickered in and out of focus as memories flooded back, her laughter, her warmth, the moments steeped in love that now felt like mere shadows, for they were overshadowed by uncertainty. A thread of rage sparked within me. "Don't you dare speak of my mother," I spat, every syllable sharpened with conviction. The figure recoiled, momentarily surprised. As I felt the ground shift beneath my feet, a realization beyond fear surged forth. My past wasn't just a shadow, it was fuel for my future. "Then choose." The figure slammed, the shadows around him flickering, restless and untamed. "Turn back to your father, and sink into the oblivion of false success he has built in the name of legacy, imprisoned by love, that will ultimately break you in two as it did your mother. Or choose to follow me and destiny, seize the very essence of your inheritance." Mia stepped closer, eyes pleading. "No matter the path you choose, Carmen, know that I'll stand by you, but you must affirm who you are. Your legacy doesn't only define us, our choices do. Trust in your heart, and what it whispers." I glanced back at my father, who stood rigid, vulnerable yet proud, a complex tapestry of protection and fear written across his face. "I can't be your pawn anymore," I breathed, the truth escaping like a long-buried secret finally set free. "I want to walk the path that has been chosen for me. I'll forge my own." At that declaration, the shadows shivered, as if recoiling from the power of my voice. A soft rumble lit the atmosphere, and for the first time, the figure faltered, uncertainty creeping into his demeanor. The rift between choices widened, a chasm of light swirling brightly on one side, darkness threatening to swallow the other. In the horrifying instant of clarity, I felt the warmth of Mia's grip enveloping mine again, a sign that, albeit the chaos, I was not alone. So, with every ounce of my being ignited by love and courage, I turned to them, Oliver, Clara, and ultimately to my father, who had tried to shelter me from a world cloaked in chaos. "I choose who I want to be," I declared, the fierceness of my resolve echoing through the night's air. "I choose the truth, even if it means confronting the darkness, Carmen, and oh." My father's voice shattered as if he could physically reach towards me, intuition and pride wrestling within him. The truth shone through his eyes. But there was no turning back. "Come with me if you want to understand your legacy. But know it will take everything," Oliver called, urgency lacing his words. "They're closing in." I felt a rush of resolve flow through my veins, the truth steadily taking its place as my guiding anchor. I stepped forward, drawn into the light. "With me, or without me, I'll find the truth. Oliver. I'll find who I am. Igniting the courage of my convictions, I leapt from the shadows and into the illuminating embrace of the unknown. As the darkness recoiled, the figure twisted in a fit of rage, shouting something I couldn't decipher, swallowed whole by the burgeoning fire of my resolve. The earth shook beneath us, but in that tremor, I found freedom, the heavy weight of expectation evaporating like morning mist. But just as the shadows faded, I turned back for the final moment, seeking my father's gaze as clarity washed over me with the rising dawn. "I love you," I whispered, my heart aching with the bittersweet blend of loss and love. "But this is my journey now." In that heart-stopping moment, I saw something shift in his eyes, a flicker of acceptance mingled with sorrow. The chaos fell silent, and a stillness enveloped us, reminding me that family bonds, though tangled, could withstand even the fiercest storms. And as I stepped closer to Oliver and the unfurling path of destiny awaited, I felt a new light illuminating my heart, quelling the shadows that had once tightly bound me. With each breath, I understood I was forging not merely a future, but rewriting the narrative of my legacy. And in that monumental rite, something shifted deep within me, unraveling the chains of the past feebly held in place by fear. As the sun rose, an ethereal light draping everything in warm gold, I understood that love, true love, would be my compass, and in that unwavering truth, I would find myself. For no matter what lay ahead, my heart had finally broken free, and just like that, in that poignant moment illuminated by dawn's embrace, I smiled. "Together, let's rewrite the story." In that statement, a promise emerged, a bond drawn beneath the skies of freedom and truth, one that would ignite a path of endless possibilities. With every fiber of my being, I felt the weight of legacy transformed and renewed, pulsing like a heartbeat as the world around me shimmered with the promise of what was yet to come. In this moment, I recognized beyond doubt, true power lies not in origin or expectation, but in the courage to choose one's own destiny.